psyop that they never even imagined, even the like terrible ones. It's going to get wacky for a while. And it's going to be up to leaders like us, people like us, who rally other people into the discussion about what can come next. And the whole history of human rights, of law, Bible, habeas corpus, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, right? There's a history as humanity has wrapped their heads around what human rights are. And that those rights don't come from, they're not given to you by the government, they come from God. They just come because you exist as a human. And as a human, there's certain things that you have to be allowed. A reworking of the judicial system around juries, stripping the judges and prosecutors of future power to do this shit has to be one of those things. And we also, Augustus, you asked earlier, one of the things that scares me and has scared me the most the last 5 years, I've been at this shit for a long time. So when Sleepy was talking earlier, I remember before Agenda 2030, there was a thing called Agenda 21. And it was all about how these globalists bribed local jurisdictions in order to modify like your town charter in very specific ways. And as part of the Tea Party, we got a lot of people elected to a lot of local offices. There was not a single jurisdiction anywhere in the country that didn't have this language embedded inside of it. And in some places, we were able to get rid of the whole state of fucking Wyoming, stripped the language out. It was awesome. Right? So that all hope is not lost. But after January 6th, the appetite for patriots to show up went out the window. The fear of provocateurs and infiltrators has made it difficult to organize. Mm-hmm. And it's not wrong.
I was just thinking about you, Bima. How the fuck is that possible?
It's not really. When we rally together.
How is that possible, Bima? That I was just thinking about you literally like 20 minutes ago. There's no coincidences, you know? I think the brain, like, I don't want to say you're my dog, but like, you know how people have dogs and like on their way home, like there's like some kind of ESP happening or something?
There will be agent provocateurs.
I'm in a room with Augustus Palante called Arctic Frost, Jack Smith, and Law. This is a room for you because it's all about lawfare and law and lawyers and judges and the corrupt system. You can go to X if you want to try to find it.
We have to make the decision within our.
If you want to say hi, just raise your hand. I'm eating some spaghetti I just cooked.
Right? The people I'm surrounded by will know my intent because we'll make it very clear. But we have to.
Welcome to the show, Bima.
Hello. You just cooked some spaghettis. Mm-hmm. Eating some spaghettis. What type of sauce are you eating with it?
Garlic marinara with some cheese on top. So, did you enjoy my Begonia song?
Yeah, I did.
My favorite Begonia?
Yeah, I think that's a great song. My Begonias like it too. They get a little jealous. They all want to be the favorite Begonia, but
there's only one Clubhouse Begonia.
Somebody asked me, it was Andrew, philosophy bro Andrew, he messaged me randomly. He's just like, what's a begonia? You know, I think the begonia thing is one of my favorite examples of how even Google and the internet doesn't give you like a good, like an answer, a good answer, right? If you were to, I don't know if I shared this with you before, but if you were to look up begonia, you're able to like images. you're gonna see these flowering, plants.
Mhm.
You're gonna think that they're a flower when you hear begonia, but that's not what a true begonia enthusiast, how we imagine begonias. It's all about the leaves. Most of my begonias don't even flower. They flower like maybe once a year for a very short time. So, and they just flower to reproduce. And it's no, some I think a little bit of the Rexes do too. So they'll flower to reproduce, but then that's it.
Mm.
But it's the leaves. The begonia, it's not in the flower.
Right.
The begonia is in the leaves.
Right.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. They're nice. I mean, do they have like any dander on them, or what do they call it that people have allergies to? Dander, right?
Dander. Well, no. There are some that have a protective layer over them that will rub off if you touch the leaf,
Mm-hmm.
but that then really hurts the leaf. Like it kills it. It's not something that like grows back, or it's just like a part of the leaf. But some of these leaves are like insanely incredible. I wish you could see it. It's like a Martian garden. That's what Daniel Nero says. He's like, it looks like you have a Martian garden.
Yeah, I've seen your picture before. I remember it did look like a Martian garden. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really fun. They're so much fun. They're so beautiful. Yeah, and they're like alive. I mean, I know that's a stupid thing to say, but they're like deliberate. They're conscious. They're conscious.
It's your opinion. It's your opinion that they're conscious.
I mean, like the stolen opera, the stolen operas, begonias, right? Like the strawberry begonia. It grows out these arms, John. Okay, these long, like toothpick-size arms, and they'll get as long as they need to be. And they feel around. They will feel around the entire greenhouse of all the begonias, the substrates, and they'll find a place. And if it suits the begonia with its little, very special sensors on its tip of its stolon, it will blossom a flower, and then it will drop the seed, and it'll grow another plant. If it doesn't, right, it's because it didn't find something, suitable for growth. Dude, one time, my strawberry begonia touched. It was going crazy, and I had like this little baby alocasia that I was taking care of for somebody, and it loved the substrate. My begonias usually don't have soil like substrate. They do like sphagnum moss and perlite, right? But this was like a soil type and cocoa coir substrate, and it really liked it. And so it touched it, and it waited for the plant to like grow a leaf, and then it attached itself to the leaf, and it grew its begonia. It actually grew begonia out of it. So it could do three things. It either grows an entire new begonia plant. It will drop a seed. It'll flower and drop a seed, right? Or it just won't do anything. And this time it it reproduced itself. And then you see like these little strawberry begonia leaves coming through, connected to the other plant, growing out of the other plant's leaf. I was like, that is incredible. Nobody believes me when I tell that story, so I had to take photos. So I have photo evidence of this. But it's incredible. Begonias are so amazing. They're so beautiful.
We got our sexual begonia night going on.
Do you have any animals? I think you need a cat or a dog if you don't have one. I think
No, I don't have
you need
any
a rescue
pets.
one.
Every time I like, there's a shelter nearby, and every time that I want to get a dog, I just look at their website, and then I just click away, and I go, "Desire has been fulfilled." Welcome. Oh, KK left so quickly. She's got so many rooms to dazzle and delight. Sarah, welcome. This is my strawberry begonia ASMR experience by the one and only Bima. Bima, do you have an Apple phone? Do you use an iPhone?
Yeah, I do.
I was wondering because your mic quality is pretty good, and I've listened to myself. I know I have a lot of cheap Androids here, but I think Apple does make a big difference on this app. I think this app is like first designed for Apple. Anyways, welcome. Invite people to the room. I'm gonna slowly trickle in all my other accounts as we grow the room. The Bima ASMR experience will grow, and there's an inside joke in this room, and I forgot what it is, but just consider yourself on the inside of the joke.
That is so funny. I just read this poem, and it's not funny, but it's on my mind. Do you want to hear it?
Yes, perfect. Go ahead.
So, this is how the poem went. It made me cry. Okay. Okay. If heaven is real, I imagine it's a place where my mother can be happy. She's a little girl with her hair in 2 long braids, bows of yellow yarn on the end. She laughs and is surrounded by angels who give her endless love. No one has hurt her. She doesn't know the consequences of a man's touch. Ooh. She chases the rays of sunshine through the clouds and never knows pain. And her brain stays perfect and innocent, and she never gets trapped inside it. She's free. I think that's all she ever wanted. And so I'll say to that, I think I love women. Do you know, I really do. I love men too. I wish we found better ways to communicate on this planet. And we had more patience and time with each other. And that really resonated with me because women are so nurturing and empathetic. And, we get a lot of crap for being like the crazy, unhinged, emotional, hormonal types. But we have to think about so much all the time. And that last piece about like being trapped in your brain, that's so true. And we love so hard. And I wonder what it is that we miss men and women. Like, how do we miss each other? And how do men and women and women and men and women of one culture and men and women of another culture, how do we miss each other so hard when we're both human? Here on this planet for the first time, as far as we know, trying to just live. Like, how does that happen? How do we miss each other so hard? How do we get so focused on our own thoughts, ideas, preferences that we just want to have them for ourselves, and we forget that there's a whole nother human being in front of us, and then treat each other like, how does that happen? Do you know, one of my biggest emotional, like spiritual, I guess, moments was when, what was it, Letters of Iwo Jima, right? And I'm thinking, like, I feel like I could have stopped that whole war. I know that sounds so stupid. I could have stopped that whole thing if we just communicated. Or you heard that story about, I don't remember if it was World War One or World War Two, but it was like winter, it was Christmas, and both sides over the trenches decided to just eat and have dinner and be at peace for just one evening. And they decided to do that, and then they had to go back to just fighting and killing each other. I mean, if you could sit there and you could move from one thing to another, so it makes me think, like, where do we really miss each other? Because I don't think people think, oh, people are so bad and they want to hurt each other. I really don't believe that. I don't think that's what people think about doing when they wake up or they have like these ideas to do that. This is going to be the end of my rant, but my theory, my hypothesis, I guess it is not a theory. No, I'm going to say it's a theory. My theory is that it's a religion, and it's not the religion that you would think. It's the religion of government. I think government is a religion, and I think we get confused and we fall into like these dehumanizing, I don't know, these ideas that the other person is now some sort of identity, and we have to attack that identity because they represent so many things that are against what we want. And that's such a farce. It's such a scam. It's such a scam. And you ask yourself, like, who benefits ultimately from that? The other party? Nope. One specific group, and that's the ruling elite. And to that, my friends, I will say, I love you. If you're a woman, if you're a man, I don't care what you practice. I don't care what religion you practice. I don't care about anything that you do, ultimately, as long as you're doing just one job in life, and that is not harming another peaceful person or using coercive force, violent back force, to enforce preferences that you abide by, that you want. I mean, it's just one job that you got. And I love you so much, and I would beg you, please reconsider that. Reconsider another way of life, peaceful way of life. Of course, there's still going to be crime and criminals. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying ultimately, we could exchange and interact so much differently, but we choose not to. And again, I'm going to blame the ruling class because they're the only ones who benefit from this. Thank you.
Biba, what do you think the golden rule is?
Well, they say the golden rule is to treat others the way that you want to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but I think,
well, this is an ASMR room, and I think that if everybody was forced to communicate via ASMR, meaning that you couldn't intentionally make somebody angry by trolling them and humiliating them and embarrassing them, we would live in a much better society, but there would be no fluctuation and no variety. So the true spice of life is variety. And even the thing about property taxes, it's like nobody lives forever. So the fact that the county can sell your home out from underneath your feet because you don't pay your taxes means that life keeps moving. And if you don't keep up with the paperwork, eventually, you're going to have some difficulties. But my strawberry begonia has yet to be planted. Oh, look, the ghost is here. How is the ghost in all the rooms? Oh, I'm in all the rooms. Anyways, I was like, wow. Anyways, thanks for that submission. I agree with you on what you're saying, but I would say that I think the biggest problem going is communication, because the Federal Reserve and all the banks, they don't manufacture anything. They're technically just like an accounting organization. And they're huge. And look at lawyers. They don't produce anything. All they do is communication. So we live in this fake reality of inferior and superior communication. And the truth is there's no wall of separation between those. It's really just a question of individual intelligence. And the masses really is asleep. The great uh, bulk of humanity is completely and totally asleep, meaning that they have not achieved a high level of intelligence or awareness or mindfulness, you might say, where they know that the situation is totally upside down. That the fact that Bill Gates can go to WEF and cry and say that global health funding is down 20%, so he can't carry out more research and more mass vaccination in Africa, etc. It's these people are so deranged, Bima, that it's not just maybe like your solutions. It's a Bill Gates problem. It is a psychosis. It is a mental health issue. The fact that Bill Gates and other people want to depopulate. The former head of CDC, this crazy woman, said that. I mean, I've seen things that are just so clown world shocking, because when you become an elitist and you're mixed into big pharma and you got a doctorate from Brown and you're engaged in genetic engineering, and next thing you know you're working at CDC and then Pfizer, and next thing you know you're making like 1.2 like you make a lot of money and you start to view things as being like inorganic. So it is a constantly recurring problem, whether it's 1920, 1930, 1950. It doesn't matter. Like these problems just keep reappearing because it is a question of behavioral human sciences and the way that we do business with each other. This is why Christ is so important, because it's a shift in intelligence. It's an upgrade of the app. So Christianity one upped Romanism and hardcore paganism and said, "This is crazy what you are doing. Let's put some limits on this type of behavior and this type of radical thinking, because radical thinking can just be imaginative." The human mind is so powerful; it can almost create, it can almost like force a fake reality, and it does. Like, but that's the thing, is we have a fake reality being forced on us. The true reality is natural. The true reality is not all this superficial Fortune 500, commercialization and product that we are selling to ourselves. I mean, nobody wanted to break into the pharmacy to steal COVID-19 vaccines. People want drugs that get them high. They don't want sterilization medication. So we just have to be honest with the situation and be transparent and try to describe it as accurately as possible. And that gives us the catharsis we're looking for, because I'm never going to be able to arrest Bill Gates. Powerful senators, powerful congressmen, powerful everyone, secretaries, no one can arrest these people, because we live in a legal industrial complex. And this legal industrial complex is driven by money. And this is the true reality of things. And there's not a speck of dust out of place in the whole universe, because the law is that important. It transcends and supersedes and dictates all these things. You want a modification to the law or a new law to supersede the old law. But anyways, that's my rant. That's my ASMR contribution. Sarah, Delambrat, or Kef Halek Habibdi, welcome to the room. This is my strawberry begonia.
So, so sweet. So, so sweet. Do you know, I think a lot of the world believes what you believe. And so I don't attack you as, I don't attack you as my enemy, but I'd invite you to consider. One thing you talked about is our differences and variety in a sense, right? You think that we have more variety because of law?
I think that's the complete opposite. I think that how I view the world is we are so intelligent. We are so we have an infinite amount of just endless possibilities that we could minds get together. It's so beautiful. But what government does is it puts monopolies on solutions, right? It says, this is how we're going to solve this, and we're going to solve it with the threat of violent back force. And if you disobey with this solution, we're going to use violent force and we're going to escalate it all the way to death. So, you know, the comply or die situation. People just say, follow the law, follow the law, follow the law. Yeah, law has given, I think we're in that next stage. And I don't think it's everybody. I think there's been a shift in the world, and there's a good percentage of us that have identified the usefulness of what organizing, right, what government did for the time that we needed it. It brought us together, it allowed us to organize, it allowed us to get the same messages across areas when we had to bring a message on a horse, you know, with okay, snail mail, the whole thing. I think that was great for the time, but now we have everything at the tip of our fingers, immediate gratification. We get all of the answers. We have immediate connection. And I think those of us that are just like, wow, look at all these solutions. Look at these alternate, infinite amount of possibilities. But we're limited by the monopoly of power, of force, telling us that a few people got together, said this was the best way to do it. If we don't do this, there's going to be a consequence. And if you don't comply, well, you need to follow the law. Because if you don't follow the law, then you brought it upon yourself. And you get what you deserve, as you see in the situation with Renee Good, right? Most people will say, she got what she deserves. You have to obey the law. You have to obey the law. But I find that the most beautiful thing about us, when I'm in these clubhouse rooms and I'm telling you about my begonias, and you're telling me all about the books that you're reading and the yoga stuff that you're doing, and there is a remarkable, I don't want to say non-sameness, that's weird, but we have so many differences. And if we had a world without rulers, right, we'd be so varied, we'd be so adaptive, so experimental, so alive, and we would just have all these options instead of these orders, and obey the law because that's the way that so and so decided was the best way to solve this problem. And then we would be able to have negotiations instead of these mandates with violent back force. And then responsibility, which is the best part, is going to be the accountability and responsibility. It's so much heavier, and you feel like, wow, you have so much direct agency to affect change in a way that isn't, oh, let me pass it on to Uncle Sam, and if Uncle Sam doesn't do it, well then, I don't need to do much else because I voted and I did my civic duty. Oh, it's such a cop out. It's such a cop out. If we didn't have all of these people, these pencil neck bureaucrats, as Mark Levin. Do you know what? I do love Mark Levin. Mark Levin was one of my if you know him, you know him, right? I'm going to give you 10 seconds on the liberal clock, right? Under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin. But without government telling everyone what society should look like, we would have so many more options. We would be so diverse, and not into chaos, but into freedom of association. Like minds, we come together. right? We would have some communities that would be more traditional. Others would be more, I don't know, avant-garde. We'd have some that would be, super faithful, and they would be, Christian or what are the Jews? Not the Jews, Hasidic. We had Islamic communities, and then we have others that would be centered around science. We'd have some that were super communal, radically communal. Oh, those dirty communists, right? And then we would have some that would be fiercely individualist, and it would be so much fun. Right? We would have some with a lot of technology, we'd have others with homesteading, and we'd have bartering, and we'd have education, different types of education. And we'd have, oh my gosh, it's so much fun. I love human beings. I love human beings. And these differences with all of us amazing human beings, it's nothing that we're not gonna have to fight over some political color, red or blue, right? And sell our soul. Oh, it's the lesser of two evils. No. How about understand that's a scam? We don't have to have either of the evils. We can choose peace. We can choose freedom to associate in voluntary associations based on consent and non-aggression principle in private property. Right? And so anyway, we don't have to have the elections, not the forced elections. We'd still have elections because they're so powerful and they do so much for us, right? Democratic, as long as they're consent based, because that's fun, right? Just like a contract. You enter the contract. Yeah, you are part of a board, let's say, of a business. Yes, you partake in it, you invest in it, you participate. You should have your vote counted. But if you're not participating and investing, and you find you don't like what the business is, where it's going or the avenue, well, then you digress and you remove your productive ability and you get to go do something else with it. You get to either do your own, build your own competing institution, whatever it is. Because we're not going to have people trying to impose their model by force. You don't need to overthrow our beautiful neighbors, right? We just have to appreciate them and love them and allow them to be, wow, a human being here for the first time. Just don't harm them, Just don't effing harm them. And our government, while I love the United States, I do, I truly do, but I love all communities, of all countries, of all over the planet. I don't see a difference in human beings. Every human being on this planet is my brother and is my countryman. But I think that government, in a whole, it homogenizes because command and control demands and uniformity. That is what feeds the beast, right? You only need one currency, you need one curriculum, you need one border, you need one way, one code of speech, one answer is correct, one. And if you want to build something different, oh, well, take your time and hire the people that you want. Oh, wait, no. Get the people that you want elected, and then they can get in, and you could just cross your fingers and hope that they're going to be there to be your quote-unquote representative. Yeah, voluntary society, we don't do that. We don't need that, right? Because we understand that there isn't one way of doing something. It's so interesting when we talk about subjective and objective morality, but so many people will say, well, morality is subjective, and then they'll say, well, what do you think about law? Now, well, we have to have law. If we don't have law, well, okay, I don't know. I think that every government, it doesn't matter.
Point of order, Bima, point of order.
Same primitive principles. And that is just that some people have the right to rule over others, and everything else, elections, the constitutions, and the courts, and the contracts, those are all the things that they use to try to keep keep you sucked in. I mean, they're good though. And that's the problem. Have you ever heard of paltering? I learned this word last year, and I love this word so much. But like paltering, when someone gives you a little bit of truth and it's mixed in with lies, but it's enough to keep you going because there's truth there too. So you're just gonna assume and you're gonna keep going. You know what I mean? I feel like that's really what's happening here. So I think if you're listening to this and you believe in the superstition of authority, of government, if you're a religious cult member of AKA government, I think that if you started to look at removing that superstition, what would life look like? Is the sky going to fall? I don't know. How would people, how are we going to communicate, cooperate? Are we going to trade? Are we going to create? Are we going to protect? Are we going to innovate? With all of these new possibilities and endless opportunities? Or are we going to be more focused on harming each other? I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I think government is the problem, not because rulers are bad people per se, but because ruling each other is a bad idea. And we have...
Bima, point of order, moderator is asking for the point of order. Bima, how powerful is the human brain?
I guess it depends on who you ask and the time of day.
Well, my point is that you can work on your brain, mold your brain, chisel your brain, and that's part of life. And the most amazing thing is that you can improve your brain outside of your brain, which is hard to believe, but because of the theory of unity, or you could call non-duality, your complaint has been recorded, Bima, and submitted multiple times. And I would just say that the feedback on your complaint is that you have a cognitive distortion disorder, because the belief is that the one God is everything. And this simulation, you are the simulation. But anyways, my point, Bima, is there are certain phrases that can reframe your perspective, which I think are actually useful. Even though they may not even be accurate, they're still very useful. For example, repeat after me, Bima. Stop thinking, end your problems. Hello?
I'm not saying that.
You're not going to say stop thinking, end your problems? You can't say that, can you?
No, because it doesn't make your problems go away.
But the thing is, thinking about them doesn't necessarily solve them either. So you're doing redundant activity. This is all about trying to optimize how you utilize the most precious object in the universe. I used to ask people at a bar, what's the most valuable object in the whole universe? And people would be like, I don't know, the sun, the earth. I'd be like, no, it's your brain. I mean, it's a very solipsistic way of looking at things, but nonetheless, without your brain, none of this would be possible. So your brain really is something quite special. And the more time you spend with your brain on the way, because the Taoistic philosophy says, you know, if you can't find somebody smarter than you, just go your own way. And it's very smart. You don't want to have a dead weight, you know, a fool to be your companion in life. It's much better to be with people who are smart and in the know or in the flow. So guys like Bill Gates and people like that I critique and complain is they never figured out the game of no game. They are constantly engaged in the game. Some people step back from the game and play the game without playing the game. Those are the best game players. So anyways, it's really just an Eastern way of looking at life, which is more naturalistic and magical as opposed to synthetic and superficial. But again, Bima, I'm interested in intelligence and intelligent communication transfer. I would like to request 60 seconds of your time after you rebut what I said to read you a beautiful poem from the master, Rumi al-Jaladin.
Sure, are we going to hear that now, or do you want my response?
No, go ahead, do your response.
Okay, so you said stop thinking, end your problems. I think there is something to that. There's something to that, of course, but I don't think that the biggest problems that have ever been solved that I've seen came from people not thinking, right? Cures for diseases, cures for cancers, innovation, technology, connectivity, efficiency, energy. I mean, it requires a thinking, right? And so I would say, I don't know. I think you're swapping reason for a sort of sedation if you don't think that we should think at all, right? The human brain is so beautiful, and yes, it's so powerful, of course, but that's not because it can be tricked into calm compliance. It's powerful, and its power is that we have the ability to choose, that we have the ability to wake up and make these decisions that requires thinking. We can detect BS, straight bullshit. We can detect manipulation. We can draw distinctions between persuasion and when we're being coerced, and coercive persuasion is disguised as enlightenment. And the irony is that when government or any big institution wants obedient neighbors, obedient quote unquote citizens, it's going to use the same script you just used. Let's stop thinking. Stop thinking. Stop thinking, end your problems. Give it up to government. Let them figure it out. Come and be my dependent, and I will make it all right. I think that's the complete opposite. Giving away your energies, giving away your power, giving away your consent and your ability to choose and be powerful. The brain is about giving away to government. It's such a cop out, it's such a weakness, it's such a submission, it's such a, I don't know. It's just a passivity that steals humanhood, just experience. So I would just say that if you're saying humans can improve themselves, stop thinking, end your problems, I don't know. Can we improve ourselves? Sure, I agree. But
the full statement is
improvement without choice. That's not improvement. What you're talking about is training, and training without consciousness. That's just not self-development. You're just domesticating. You're teaching people how to be domesticated tools, to domesticated sheep. And it's a society where people are going to think for themselves. It's going to be messy. It's going to be unpredictable. It's going to be diverse. And that's exactly why the institutions they crave control over us. They want to control. They want to convince you and make you believe that there is some sort of certainty if they're in power, whether it's political or spiritual. And then they want to anesthetize us. They anesthetize your thinking, and they sanctify your obedience to just stop thinking, end your problems.
So that comes from the first Zen poem, by the way. You didn't even ask me where I got it from. But it comes from the first Zen poem, and it also says, the more you think, the more you speak, the further from the truth you're going to get. Because guess what? The secret surprise of the super hard, difficult riddle to answer is that you are, meaning that, the more you think, the more you speak, the further from the truth you're going to get. You are the truth. So that's the good news. And therefore, you don't have anything to fear. And the only thing you have to fear is fear itself. If you remember that statement, the more you think, the more you speak, the further from the truth you get, that holds true. It's almost like it's impermeable. It's a maxim in a way, because even Bill Gates could say it, Fauci could say it, anybody can say it and believe it. And that's the terrifying thing about that statement, that a lot of these people that you complain about and I complain about, unfortunately, the same rules apply to them, but they may not know that secret statement. That comes from the first Zen poem. Again, Bima, I hear women say that we don't need to read books because eventually you'll think about everything anyways. It is so stupid. Why the fuck do you think books exist? They are external hard drives so we can resurrect divine intelligence now for our benefit and for the benefit of mankind. It takes work, though. It's like digging a hole, maybe for your grave, but still it takes a lot of work to dig a hole. So without further ado, I'm requesting 60 seconds of your beautiful time to read to you a world-famous poem by Rumi. Pick a number, 1 through 100.
I'm gonna say
Hello?
how old are you, John?
43.
Let's put 43.
Look at this, page 43. It's called Omar and the Old Poet. It's kind of a long one, though. It's unfortunately 3.5 pages. Let's just read one page at a time and then we'll take a break. This is Omar, and we'll discuss it. This is Omar and the Old Poet. So this is a meditation for my favorite begonia. This is called Omar and the Old Poet by Rumi. The poet has grown old. His voice is choked, sounding and harsh. Some of his harp strings are broken. Poetry that once refreshed the soul now is no use to anyone. The sound adored by Venus become a faint braying from an old donkey. What found the falcon's prey now catches gnats. All fair things decay. What roof has not fallen to be this where we walk? Only the inward voice heard in the chest does not fade. Only that amber continually draws to it with steady strength all thought and every art. So this poet has grown feeble and also poor because no one wants to hear him anymore. He goes to the graveyard and clown house and prays, Lord, you always accept counterfeit coins from me. Take these prayers again and give me enough to buy new silk strings for my harp. He speaks a few lines with the strings remaining. 70 years I've been forgetful, but not for a moment has this flowing toward me slowed or stopped. I deserve nothing. I am the guest the mystics talk about. I play this living music for my host. Everything today is for the host. Then he puts the instruments down for a pillow and goes to sleep. The bird of his soul escapes, free of the body and the grieving, flying in a vast, simple region that is itself, where it can sing its truth. I love this having no head, this tasting without mouth, this memory without regret. How without hands I gather rose and basil on an infinitely stretching out plain that is my joy. So this water bird plunges in its ocean, Job's fountain where Job is healed of all affliction, the pure sunrise. If this Masnavi was suddenly sky, it could not hold half the mystery this poet enjoys in sleep. If there were a clear way into that, no one would stay here. Meanwhile, to the Caliph Omar, napping nearby, a voice comes, give 700 gold dinars to the man sleeping in the cemetery. Okay, I'm going to take a break there. I actually read this one the other day here on the app. Oh, so, I mean, Bima, the other conversation to me that's always interesting after every poetry is about hypnosis, and the fact that, let's say you can basically calculate how many words people are going to use before they die. If you make it to, like, you could do a quick calculation. Let's say you say 500 words a day. Multiply that by 365. Multiply that by 50. So you're looking at like 7.5 million words that people use on average, let's say, before they croak, or 10 million words. I want to use I'm surrounded by books, Bima. So my point here on Clown House is to mix these books into my word soup. And my soup tastes delicious. It's my opinion, of course. But I've had soup where I would say these people have to be crazy because it tastes so bad. Who just cooks soup with, rotten mushrooms and calls it soup? I mean, I got a certain aesthetic that I enjoy in life. And I think ultimately everyone is just choosing an aesthetic. And it's superficial, but nonetheless, I like the books versus, the raw spoken word. It's my opinion. But I'm in a book club. And we meet every Thursday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. So this.
I do love that. I do love that.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I can't do it any other way. I just love books. I mean, I really like reading. Rumi is probably my favorite. It's the most mystical. It's like, where did he come up with this stuff? Because it just registers every time. You're just like, God, it's so smart. It's a little, like AI just can't do this. That's why I call myself AI, because I realize people are just constantly saying my name, AI, 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 in all their sentences. And so essentially they're just using it as a cover for the word software. And if you look at the word soft and you wear it, we could do a sample of Clown House right now, and we could do quick diagnostic check-ins on the speakers. Most people on this app are extremely crude, extremely vulgar. Now, in the real world, they might be more polite and treat you with respect if you treat them with respect. But on this app, it's a little bit like going to the psych ward and there's no doctors around and no nurses, and it's policed by the attendees or by the patients. So this app is, as with Brad Stauffenberger, who made multiple vulgar remarks with you. When some people are left, there's just so many experiments like this where people basically, they will just do whatever they want to do. They won't follow instructions. So anyways, I'm just describing life. Marcus Aurelius says it best, where every day you're going to meet some vulgar, profane, disgusting, obnoxious person. And it can hold true. It's not necessarily true, but I'm sure have you ever had any experiences with people in the outside world, where you were just like utterly shocked, ashamed, saddened, angry, repulsed, Anything come to mind?
You know, I've had a lot of crazy situations happen to me throughout my life. And no, usually, usually all of my contempt or this is actually a really good point. This is very interesting. I've never thought of this. I've actually never been asked that question before, first of all. So that's interesting. Second thing is I just realized that violent things have happened to me in real life. Coercive things have happened to me in real life. And whenever dealing with human beings and people, I've never felt disgust. I've never felt repulsed. I've always felt that there was some sort of opportunity to connect with another human being, even when it was deeply not in my favor. The only time that I've ever felt disgust of a situation in real life is when people put on a costume of anonymity and operate under the agency of someone else for a paycheck, and they commit atrocities that they'd never do in their real life. They'd never do them without that, badge, or without that costume. They would never ever do them because they know inherently and deeply that it's wrong. And there's just so many other ways. I've been robbed. I've been robbed multiple times in different types, different weird situations. I Believe it or not, I grew up in a very rough neighborhood. I've been held at gunpoint. I've been held as a violent hostage. Well, I don't want to say he was violent because it was just a weird circumstance, but I was held as a hostage one night, and I chose to participate in what it was that we were doing. I decided not to have the fearful reaction, and I don't know if that saved my life. But the ending was interesting, and it was basically like I was coming home one evening from work. It was late, not like too late, but late, like maybe 9 o'clock, and I had stopped at this light, and a guy jumped in my passenger seat, opened up my car. Also public service announcement: always lock your doors. Don't ever get complacent with that. And he jumped in my passenger's side door in the front, and I'm driving, and he had his hoodie up, his hands in his pockets, leaning over, and he looked at me like he would have hurt me, and he said, you're gonna, he's like, drive here. He's like, drive over here. And I'm just like, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, so what can I do in that instance? Like, I mean, he's too close. He's in my car. What am I going to do? Am I going to start screaming? I mean, like, he's going to get, I don't know. I didn't know what to do. And it's weird because in those circumstances, you really don't, right? Until they actually happen. And I decided to just, I don't know, something came over me. I was like, I'm going to treat him like a person instead of someone that's going to like hurt me. And I don't recommend this to anybody else. This was just my personal experience. And so I treated him. I was just like, all right, bro. I was like, where are we going? I was like, what do you need? You just needed a ride? He ended up telling me to go spot to spot to spot for most of the evening. And he would bring me to some, we're going to some hotel room or some apartment complex or some back street, and somebody else. But he was obviously doing exchanges. You could use your imagination to what type of exchanges. So he had stuff on him, and he was doing this, and I was basically, complicit in the whole thing.
And I just kept going. With it. And I started to talk to him. I try to humanize him, try to bring up just regular conversation. And a couple times I would see that he was so confused. You could see that he wanted to hurt me, but he was just like, "What are you doing, lady?" Like, I think what he wanted was to take my vehicle. That's what I think. And where I'm from, it's not like something that's unusual. And I think he was prepared to hurt me. But it was so interesting, like the whole interaction. And finally, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was just like, God, I was like, dude, I'm really tired, and we're gonna get in an accident because I can't stay awake anymore. And then he's just like, all right. And he's like, well, that's it then. And then he just like got out, and that was it. Um, it was weird, but even in that case, like I wasn't repulsed. I was just like, I wanted to know why. Why are you doing this? Why do you think this is a good idea? What did I do to deserve it? Why do you think, what in your mind brought you to feel that this was the only option that you have? What, like, I just had so many questions. I really would have liked to just talk to him, but like have a good conversation. I mean, like weird stuff like that. Even then, I wasn't.
Don't you think it's a little strange? Don't you think it's a little strange that you want to have a conversation with a guy that basically kidnapped you, threatened you with violence or intimidation and death, like basically molested you with fear, and you like went along? Don't you think that even your response, as opposed to like fight or flight, you just went with the flow? Like, I don't know. I mean, me, I'm like ready to fight and fucking, flight, but like you went with the flow. Maybe it worked out in your favor, but like you're thinking about it like some kind of clown house conversation, like, oh, I want to get in this guy's head. He's probably high as fuck on drugs. Like the fact that he, even jumped into your car, like I would have put the car in park, like immediately, got a fuck out of the car, and just booked it, ran as fast as I could have, like wherever there was help.
But like, I mean, so a very young me, um, shout out to young Republicans. I got my pistol permit as soon as I was able to. And so I've been carrying for a very long time. And when you have that power on you, I don't know, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, I am not like wanting to move to use it. It actually does the opposite for me.
So wait, when this guy was with you, you had the gun on you?
I always carry.
So, God, I mean, then why the fuck would you go along with this guy's, instructions? I mean, you could have gotten out of the car and sent this guy straight to.
That's exactly why. Because I wasn't. I guess there was a piece of me that wasn't scared, because I knew that worst case scenario, I could take, like, this guy is willing, and he doesn't even realize he's willing to risk his life for this scenario, and I could end it all right there.
Yeah, you could have.
Right there, I could, and just boom, and I would have been. But see, this is also interesting. I had this. Back when I was in politics, and back when I was like a prepper, I mean, it was crazy. I did like the whole military prepping, and I loved, Second Amendment. So I loved going to the range with my military crew, and we would shoot. It was, whatever. Now, during this time, I was, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say. And so there was this one guy in our network, and he was so in his belief that the Second Amendment was going to protect him and that he had a right to do it, that he manifested a situation where he used his weapon and he ended up killing somebody. and it backfired because it was crazy. I could give you the article. It's I could find it. It'll take me a few minutes to Google it. But basically, he was in Texas and he was driving, and he got in like a little accident. He pulled over, and now let me tell you, this guy has been itching for years to use his gun. He wanted to use it so bad. He wanted to use his Second Amendment. He wanted to use it so bad that he even got like these dogs, these German Shepherds, and he spent thousands and like $10,000 for each dog to train them to attack people. And like, it was crazy. So he's like all about security, like hyper vigilant. Someone's going to get him, someone's out to get him, someone's going to hurt him, and when it happens, he's going to be prepared, right? And it's easy to get down that. Like, I mean, when you're in that, when you're hearing, the sum of the three people that you spend the most time with yourself with, you know what I'm saying? Like, it happens. It's easy, right? So anyway, he was driving, got in a spat. The guy got out of his car. He was a young kid. He gets to this guy's car, and he goes to punch him through his window. And as he went to go punch him, dude had his hand on his weapon prepared. Just boom, right in the chest, killed him one shot. Cops came. It was just, it was justified. It was defensive force. But this guy had to go into protective custody because everybody was so upset because the kid just was having, he was a young kid. He was just having a bad way to go. He was just frustrated. The guy, however it happened, he decided to get violent or try to get violent, but he, whatever. All of his friends and family wanted to then hurt this guy.
Yeah.
That defended himself. So he and his family, his kids, they all had to go into protective custody. He had to move and all this other stuff, right? But see, the reason I'm telling you this story is because the same exact thing happened to my love's best friend. And the difference is that my love's best friend didn't use a weapon. Same exact scenario. His name was Louette. He was driving, got in an accident. A guy got out, had a flashlight, went to go hit him through his window with the flashlight. Louette got out because he was in the military, started fighting the guy, took the flashlight from him, right, and, shut him down, beat him up pretty good. And years later, this guy saw him in some event, and he walked up to Louette, and he was just like, "I'm so sorry." He's like, "Thank you for not, taking my life. I apologize. I don't know what I was thinking. I can't thank you enough for, not being crazy enough to, because he knew Louette, he carries too. So he could have taken him easy, but he didn't. Louette was a man. He got out and, used his hands. And so anyway, moral of the story is I'm not saying don't defend yourself. I'm not saying that. And the crazy thing is, if it was other people, I would use force. And that's what I carry for. I don't carry for defense of myself. And I don't want anybody that's listening to this to think that that's an opportunity to come and find me, okay? Because now I changed my mind. Just for saying that.
Yeah, makes a good story. Great story. But nowadays, if somebody got in your car, you would ice that motherfucker.
No, but I wouldn't. I don't look to use my weapon immediately when it's just myself. I want to talk to you. I want to have a conversation with you. I want to know what's going on, and we got to figure this out. Unless it's like some sexual stuff, like if it's like sexual and you catch me on like a back end, like a road, and you're like I'm walking or exercising. I mean, I might have to use it. You know what I'm saying?
So no dirty talk, just pleasant conversation. You won't kill a person. Confirming. Okay, great.
Well, because now I'm starting to think. I'm freaking thinking about people that are mental that want to just kill people, like serial killers and stuff. if you're a serial killer, there's no reasoning with you, right? But like regular robberies and stuff like that, like I'm gonna try to reason with you. You know what I'm saying? But if you're trying to like physically harm me, no, I would use deadly force.
Beaver in the house.
A beaver.
Beaver's a fan of your ASMR. Beaver just shared the craziest story with us. You may want to go back to the replays and listen to this crazy story where she became a driver for a drug dealer for a night. And like eventually was like, bro, I'm so tired. I gotta go to sleep. He was like, okay, have a good night. And then just like left. It's like the craziest story I've ever heard. We've been reading Rumi. So are you ready to hear page number 2 of The Old Poet?
You know that was the original number that I was going to give you before 43. Like that was the number that came to mind was 2. Go ahead.
We read this one. So before you said 43, I was looking at 41. This is a short one. It's called A Ship Gliding Over Nothing. Only union with you gives joy. The rest is tearing down one building to put up another. But don't break with forms. Boats cannot move without water. We are misquoted texts, made right when you say us. We are sheep in a tightening wolf circle. You come like a shepherd and ask, so how are you? I start crying. This means something to anyone in a body. But what means something to you? You can't be spoken, though you listen to all sound. You can't be written, yet you read everything. You don't sleep, but you're the source of dream vision. A ship gliding over nothing. Deep silence. Praise for one who told Moses on Sinai, you shall not see me. That's a pretty mystical one. I think it's kind of amazing how like you could write poetry, 1,500 years ago, and it's basically like using your imagination to make up technology or something. Yeah.
Hey, guess what? I wanted to say chicken butt, but that's not what I was going to tell you. I guess just, what is it, memory? Okay, so I found this recently, this dog, this abandoned dog, beautiful, beautiful, and she's lonely and scared, and she's so sweet, and they dropped her off at a truck shop, like however the dog got there. So there's like people in and out of this place all day, and they just watch her, and she's filled with fleas, her covered in fuel, God knows, antifreeze, whatever else, just all over her paws. Her little paws are all white, but they're just black. And she has all these black fuel marks and grease marks all over her. She's dirty and she's tired and she's exhausted, and
belly was extended, and it was just so sad. And so I took her. Okay, so I got her, but brought her to the vet today, and she has heartworm. I'm so sad about it. I'm really scared for her because she's just so sweet. She also has hookworms.
So what are you gonna do? Are you gonna put the dog down? Why don't you just put the dog down and have the vet, euthanize it?
If you were in front of me, there would be, and we were romantic, there would be no sex for you. That is such an anti-sexual, anti-romantic, that comment is like such a super turnoff that it would be such a turnoff that you would be you'd be banned for the night.
I was dating. This craziest coincidence, but I was dating this like really super hot chick in San Diego from a very wealthy family, and she was like insanely hot, insanely beautiful woman, and I had a Havershire, which is a half Havanese, half Yorkie or something, and I think I spent like an insane amount of money on it, and just the cutest dog, but could not be. I could not get the dog to be quiet. It was just like a constant, moaner and barker, and just super high energy and everything. So I tried my best, but I was like, this is too much for me. So I gave the dog away to a very nice family, and that was the end of the dog. But the point is, when I gave that dog away, the super hot girlfriend in San Diego gave me away because like she loved that little dog, and like to think that I gave that dog away was like I killed it or something. When I was just trying to like do what was best for this cute little dog. I couldn't manage it. I was too busy and all these other things. So, but yeah, that dog lost me that incredible, beautiful woman. But
No, you didn't deserve it because listen, this is the thing. You didn't deserve the dog or the woman. I'll tell you why. Maybe you do now, but maybe you didn't then. I'll tell you why. Because I think that's, people like to trash the ethical vegans so much, but that mentality is the problem. It's like thinking like, let me take on another life and let it become a pure dependent and just solely dependent on my every move. Whatever love it gets from me. Whatever food, whatever care. But then also it's just conditional. And if at any point you become, you're not benefiting me, or it's maybe that whole stupid BS argument. Oh, I couldn't give it the life that it deserved. Well, you know what? Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided. It's the same thing like a child. You don't say that after you have a kid, right? You have a kid, and then I wish no, right? Like those people are the problem, and I think that mentality is what really threw her off. Like you're so willing instead of just changing and making it so. Maybe it's just the capacity. Maybe she was frustrated by the capacity that you didn't have to really connect with something and love it so much. Maybe you should have been more torn up about it. Because maybe there was a case where you were giving it a better life. Maybe the dog, but also we got to remember that these animals, they love you, even if you're not giving them what you think is what they still have drawn such love and connection, and they only know us. And so the fact that you could just give him away to somebody else, yeah, I can see how she would have felt that way. Do you know what? Similar story, dude. I was saying
it's true. It's all psychology. It's crazy.
I was seeing this guy, and we had, still to this day, babe, don't listen to this. Okay, close your ears. The best sexual chemistry. He was a bridge worker. Okay, so he could just the best sexual chemistry. Oh my god! To this day, nobody could top it. Okay, and we
Are you saying this in front of your boyfriend? Holy shit!
I don't lie to him. I don't lie to him.
Holy shit! I'd be pissed if my girlfriend was saying this on fucking social audio chat app.
Because listen, my love knows that he's a lover. He's not an effer. Like he's not gonna eff. He's just always let's make love. He won't even say sex or fucking, or he doesn't use private. But he's a lover. He's just a lover. Okay, so and he knows that I don't mind it, and he knows that I would prefer him over anybody else in the world any day. But so point is, okay, so sexual chemistry, unbelievable. And I mean, it was on fire every time. It was incredible. It was crazy. We'd go to the apple orchards. I mean, like, we'd do crazy things, like pulling me out of car windows, throwing me over car hoods, wherever. It was just on fire. It was amazing. And he was making good money, and we were young, and he was just like, getting all about me. And I said, well, I had gotten my little soulmate, and it was my dog, and I was just thinking about like scenarios,
this is a good story.
As women do.
This is a good story.
And I thought to myself, let me ask him if he would loan me, $3,000 if ever I needed it for her. And because, and the reason that I did this is because whenever we would hang out, he would always fill up my gas tank, right? And he would, it didn't matter. He'd make sure that I had everything and fill up my gas. He'd always take my card to get me, gas tank filled. And one day he left the receipt, like the money thing, when you go and you get your money out of the ATM, he left the receipt in the car, and it said how much money he had in his account. And his account was a lot, okay? It was 6 figures, and I was shocked. I was like, holy shit, this guy just has this sitting in his freaking account? Like, what is he doing, So anyway, I thought to ask him. So I tested him, and I said, hey, David, would you, I just am looking for, security blankets, I guess. If ever I needed, a $3,000 to $5,000 loan for an emergency for my girl, would you be willing to loan it to me? And he says, what do you mean for your girl? Oh, first I said, would you be willing to loan it to me? And no, hold on, I got to restart. I said it wrong. I said, hey, if I ever needed a $3,000 to $5,000 loan, would you loan it to me? He goes, yeah. He's like, what for? And I said, oh, well, it would be for my girl. So if I ever needed it for her in a case where it's an emergency, you have to pay up front in these vet hospitals. And, I don't have that kind of, $5,000-$10,000 sitting in my savings account. And he said, wait, for your girl? And I'm like, yeah, for my dog. And he's just like, no effing way would I give you $3,000 to $5,000 for your dog. And I said, well, no, I'm not saying I don't want you to give it to me. Just a loan, right? And I'll pay you back. And he goes, absolutely not. And I said, what? And he's like, yeah, no. He's like, I'm not loaning you that much for a dog. He's like, there's no way. And I was like, wait, you just said that you would loan me. And he goes, yeah, but not for a dog. And I was just like, okay, we're done. And that was it. I never talked to him again.
Wow.
Yeah, that little thing was my deal breaker. I was like, all right.
Did he try to get back with you or no?
Oh, yeah, of course. But he never, he was firm on what he's just like, we could talk about it,
The fuck? He couldn't even budge on a hypothetical?
Right? And he's just like, no. He's like, no way. He's like, I'm not doing it for a dog. He's like, I'm not doing it for a dog. There's no way. And I'm like, all right, well, then we have nothing else to talk about.
Well, I don't know. My post-story analysis would be maybe you were overcompensating the incredible sex. Maybe the sex was amazing for you, but for him, $3,000 to $5,000 for a hypothetical dog, maybe the sex wasn't, rocking his world the way that it was rocking your world.
Yeah, you know what? I thought about that too. But you know that this guy, for 10 years straight, 10 years, he called me every single Friday.
Ugh.
He was addicted to me. And it was only on a Friday. It was every Friday night.
Yuck.
And sometimes, wait a second. Sometimes he would call me, and I'd be like, "Hello," and he goes, "I just wanted to hear your voice," and then he just hung up. Like, but it would be every single Friday. He called me until I changed my number.
Damn, you're a pretty nice person for even taking a fucking call.
Well, he was fun to talk to. We talked about the Bible. He was very smart. He was fun to hang out with. But yeah, I wasn't budging on anything
Anyways,
else.
the dog is what moved the needle on that one.
Yeah.
Good story.
Oh, hold on a second. I just remembered a worst case scenario. Oh my gosh. God forgive me. I had a fiance. I had 2 fiancés. One of my last fiance. Casey, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry that it ended this way, but no regrets, and I'm sure that's it was the best option for us. So I had just we had just gotten our place together, okay, and I had my girl and my dog, same dog, okay, and he didn't want her on the bed, and he was just like, you can't have her on the bed, and I was just like, no, she's gonna be on the bed. She's gonna be on the bed. And so he said, well, I'm gonna go to stay at my dad's house. And he got up and he walked out and he says, when you change your mind, you call me. And he left, he walked out. And he stayed at his dad's for 1 night, 2 night, 3 night. He didn't call me, I didn't call him. The end of the week came and he's just like, so, what are we doing? And I was like, I'm so sorry, but she's sleeping in the bed. And he's like, I'm very strict on this. And he was so strict. He was so weird. I'm so sorry, Casey. So weird with your dogs. He had his dog Jake, and he would make him sit on, he had to stay in the living room when he was in the kitchen eating. And the dog wasn't allowed to pass the imaginary line of in where the living room met the kitchen. And he would have to stay there, right? Anyway, I hated it. I hated the way that he treated his dog. But his dog loved him very much, and they had a great relationship. I just hated it. It was, crazy girl me. And so, anyway, he's just like, I'm strict. I'm strict on this. He's like, I'm not gonna budge. He's like, Jake doesn't sleep in the bed. We don't keep animals in the bed. No animals in the bed. And I was just like, I'm so sorry, but she's sleeping in the bed with me. Like, she's gonna sleep with me every night until she dies or I die. Like, this is it. And he's just like, I think this is unveiling very bigger issues in our relationship. And I think there's and I was just like, yeah, I agree. And he was just like, I guess we'll take some time and I'll just work on the separation. And I was like, yeah, I think that's the best. And we broke up. We broke up over that. And that was the catalyst. We hung on for a couple more months, but we stayed in separate. We got rid of the place that we were staying, and he went to live with his dad, and we were still trying to hopefully change it, but that was again my ultimate deal breaker. Like, yeah, no, she's sleeping in the bed. You could leave. And he did. But it works out for the best, you know what I mean? It's just, these are deep philosophical values, moral codes, and just, you can't budge on that type of stuff. And that's good that you find out before you get married versus after. I feel bad for the people that find out that stuff after. Oh shit, I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah. It's you know, I'm 43 now, but I got engaged when I was 26, and then it didn't work out. It ended, and I don't know. I just like it's so crazy now because like if I go out with a girl who is in her 20s or in her 30s, um, so many people are just like. Anyways, I went out with a girl recently who's just like so ADHD and annoying, and every conversation is like pulling teeth. It's just like dealing with like a very childish person. I don't know. At this point, I kind of like my uh, hermit, monk lifestyle, and I'll take love, where, when, and with whom I can, if and when, type of a
Yeah.
thing. So it's like, I don't know, I like putting my, feathers up and my feelers out, but like at the same time, to take on somebody that like is basically where I'm like daddy and she's peaches. I read this really gross article about this guy in the 20s whose name was Daddy and his girlfriend's name was Peaches. And he was like in the New York Post for like marrying a 15-year-old. They at a from like a beauty pet or from like a sorority dance that he sponsored. And he put an ad in the paper like a month before saying he wanted to adopt a 14-year-old. So my point is like I don't have the money to like indulge somebody or to like set somebody up. But the dumbest and most worst thing in the world is like setting somebody up when you don't even have a real relationship. It's like I would like to help somebody, like if she doesn't have a car, or, like how I can help, but it's like either the relationship is real or it's not. Like I don't do fake shit. So I'm just saying that relationship, it's like if it's fake and superficial, it has a short lifespan because ultimately and naturally, myself and the other person, everybody will always disengage from what's not organic. Nobody likes the inorganic.
How much do you really think, though, a 20 or 30-year-old could offer you? Question.
There's some really cool, smart, intuitive, beautiful, wonderful people out there. I'm not saying that the cat's meow. There's some awesome people out there, but once they see my YouTube or Google me, a lot of people are just like, nope. Because they don't want to be in a relationship with somebody that has an online presence that their friends and family can now Google and send them clips of and say, "Oh, your boyfriend or fiance or husband just said this." It's like too much for people. So I'm okay never really getting married. Like I think I confirmed a couple of years ago that I would be like a permanent bachelor. So, you know, that's it. But I mean, on a Friday, Saturday night, I like meeting people, and great things happen on the Shabbos. Husan, welcome to the room. This is Bima's strawberry begonia. Welcome, Husan.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you guys were on topic or what the scope of it was, so I'll just sit back and figure out the temperature of the room. But
Oh, you
definitely
you
here
just
for
quietly
Lima,
listen.
strawberry begonia, ASMR. Let's get it all in.
Oh, don't get me excited with the strawberry begonia.
So,
So, have you heard? Well, the reason I ask is, see, I wanted to give you information. Hold on, let me Google it real quick.
Strawberry begonia.
Husan can read, which is more than I was expecting. I'm surprised that you can actually read. I mean, I'm just AI though. Do you use AI, Husan?
What were you expecting before we get to that?
Oh, there's no expectations for my strawberry begonia. She shared with us some very intense stories this evening. You'll have to go to the replays, but now that you're permanently on the record, because replays are on and it'll show up in your profile. I'm sure at some point maybe you'll go back and say, maybe I will listen what they were talking about. It was pretty interesting conversation they had, but maybe not.
Well, what intrigued me was the idea that you didn't expect that I would be able to read. I think is how you put it. So I'm curious what your expectations were in that realm. I'm very open to strawberry begonia in whatever format it manifests itself. But in terms of literacy, I was curious what that meant.
No, I'm just being facetious, man. I'm just fucking with it.
Okay, so I'm so sorry. Son, I was actually going to roll over what you were just talking about, but is that okay?
Please. Your agenda rules the world.
So, what I was, I ChatGPT this, but it's not as cohesive as I read it originally. But in psychology, now I don't know if it's is it the Erik Erikson model? But basically, there are different stages of the self, right? So you have, 0 to 1, 1 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 12, 12 to 18, identity versus confusion, role, like identity versus your role into society. Then 18 to 30, there's the intimacy versus isolation. See, and it's not even saying it right, but there are these different stages. And so it's like after 18, maybe 18 to 25, and then 25 to 30 something, and then 30 to something else. And then like your last stage is like 65 plus, and after that, you're just doing like one type of psychological development. The reason I asked about what you think like a 20 or 30-year-old is going to offer you is because I don't think that there are many that have those things. Like they would have to be much more mature than their own age, and not, we know that females mature faster than males, and I'm not taking all of that into consideration. She'd have to even mature even more further than that to even be able to compete with you in the realm of like stage comparison, like psychological stage comparison, like your commonalities, your interests, development, mental development, identity, all of these things.
Maybe I have some familiar, so I'm even excited that you dared to bring it up. But to the part that it triggered me, maybe she doesn't need to compete with him. Maybe she just needs to compliment him and or trust him when it comes to this sort of dynamic. I think that for an older man, in fact, it's very ironic. Please cut me off if I'm over talking. Very ironic that I stumbled into this particular, let's call it a vibration, because I just got through talking to a couple where the man was probably in his middle 50s and the young lady was just about to turn 30. So they have at least a 20-year gap of age between them. But he stands in so much gratitude for what she brings. She may not have all of the life experience that he has, but she has a certain level of vigor, a certain freshness of insight, and he values that. He's not really looking for someone to be a good, intellectual sparring partner, but he really is feeling fulfilled because she provides him a certain level of je ne sais quoi, if you will. There's this little something special that she has in terms of her worldview that perhaps his peers could not even try and match. So I just want to push back a little bit on this idea that she needs to be so much more mature. I think it's really about her capacity to compliment and or bring a certain type of energy that he may not find elsewhere. So I hope that is okay for me to say, and I'll yield back my mic.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think it's a really good point. I guess I was, well, admittedly, I'll have to give you, kudos, because it's a great, excellent point. But I feel like it's not only maturity, that's one aspect. I think John's he's a thinker. And unless you have a lot of other, I don't know how to say this crassly. I don't want to say it crassly. Okay, so I'll ask a question instead. What do you think, or what type of, okay, new question. Sorry, my own mind I'm getting lost inside of it. Do you believe in unconditional love?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, the saying that I like is love under will, which comes from Crowley and Thelema. So love under will, meaning that our willpower has to be in control of the love. Otherwise, the love can destroy and become chaos and abusive and destructive to the self. So I'm actually, I think, very content being alone at this point at 43 because the energy required to live with somebody else is more than I want to give anymore because I like the energy more. And then they get these energy vampires. So I'm just saying that, like, I wish I had more money so I could indulge more people, but I'm just telling you that energy preservation is my favorite question to ask people. How do you preserve your energy? What's your energy preservation plan? Because mine is basically like, don't indulge people because like it just never ends and it becomes horribly parasitic. So I like the spontaneous, and many people do not like the spontaneous. They are what they call planners, but really they're just like artificial, superficial people. Meaning that if you can't be spontaneous, like you're basically undateable to begin with. It's my opinion. It's like people who take black and white photos and post it on the profile. It's like, okay, motherfucker, black and white photo, huh? Never trust a black and white photo.
Well, I'm certainly not here to challenge your point of view as the new guy in the room. But I will yes and what I heard you say. On the one hand, the yes is yes. It is certainly a whole lot easier of a lifestyle when you come home and realize that your socks are exactly where you left them. And the dishes in the kitchen are right where you wanted them to be. And there's no more new dishes. So yes, I do appreciate the energy conservation that comes with living life on one's own, especially if you can sustain yourself. Yes, it is much easier. But I think a life worth living is a life that comes with challenges. It comes with dragons that need to be slayed, especially the dragons within, right? That ego. Slaying the ego, I think, is an opportunity to live a more full life, right? Because we're guys. I don't know anything about you, so I don't want to stereotype, but we typically don't need much, Give me a hot water and a good internet connection. I'll be all right. I'll figure the rest out. But when you have this X Factor lady, pretty young thing, or, beauty versus the beast or whatever,
and she challenges you, and she wants you to put your socks over there and not exactly where the fuck you left them. And she got a few more dishes because she had to eat breakfast too. But at the same time, you know, you mentioned that you're very much a thinker, you know, and so maybe that energy can get you to not think so much. You know, maybe her energy also adds value in the sense that it's, you know, you're open to spontaneity and open to planning. Well, maybe she can bring something else that you never even thought of before.
See, I'm not a thinker.
I think there is something about that.
I'm not a thinker. I don't want to think. That's part of my energy conservation plan. I understand your point about, you know, how all this extra entropy enters your home and environment by having, you know, a partner or a family. But I'm just saying that Bhima is projecting when she says he's a thinker. The whole thing about Zen philosophy is stop thinking, end your problems. The more you think, the more you speak, the further from the truth you're going to get. And unfortunately, a lot of the girls, you know, that I meet, it's amazing because I put on there that I'm a politician. And there are spies subconsciously that want to interact with somebody who might be on the rising end of the political spectrum. It's hilarious. There are people that are using these dating apps in the same way that people use Clubhouse to gather intelligence on people. It's fucking infuriating because I don't even think they know that. It's basically they're sociopaths, is what it is. But they also think they're acting as like a state agent or a spy or something. I don't know. It's just my observation from being, you know, talking with girls from dating apps.
I don't know, you confuse me, Chuck. I don't know, like you're a thinker, then you're not a thinker. Do you know, that was one of my most frustrating, like the duality, you know, concept. Like, oh, just sit by, like the Buddhist mentality, like when I was into that and trying to say, just like, wait, you want me to sit by and like not be politically active, like not do anything, and that just like observe, and by observing, that's the bit, like I couldn't process that. Like there's so much injustice in the world, like I have to do, and it's just I couldn't ever.
That's not the Buddha. I mean, you can't see. This is the problem about people who want to talk about Buddhism or Christianity or any other ism or anything. Is just read to me what the fucker said in the sayings. So if you were to read the Buddha right now, you would read things that would like blow your mind. The Buddha says, "Be like a bubble." It says that in the Dhammapada. Be like a bubble. What the fuck does that mean? Be like a bubble,
bro. I be going to these fucking Clubhouse rooms about fucking Buddha. This lady that I know, she does these shits regularly. I'd be like, what the fuck does that mean? When you're empty, you're full. And you gotta, like, what the fuck? The level of contradiction doesn't make any sense. So I'm glad I'm not the only one.
No, I'm telling you that it's very smart. It's saying that life is so temporary that it's going to pop, you know. So act as if the now is all important. So the Bhima has a false impression of the wisdom or the way. She thinks this passivity is, I guess you could say, like, I don't want to say objectivity, but she thinks that this passivity is not in alignment with her moral character. But she fails to see that this silent contemplation is political not in its essence, but it can be politically subversive and therefore politically superior. So Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Buddhist monk, most Buddhist monks are nonviolent practitioners and peace meditators. But there are like warrior Buddhist monks out there, you know, the Shaolin temple type monks. So, you know, Bhima and I and you, Husan, I assume you're American, you know, we live in this cultural bubble here, which is very unique and specific geographically. If you were to go to India and have dinner with a street vendor tonight, you know, who picked his nails, you know, 2 minutes, like, I'm just saying there's standards of living which in a way are like so shocking, but their philosophy, anyways, I'm just saying life is beautiful, but there's a lot of ways to play the game of life. I have this great little book with love affirmations in it, and it's a game of life with words, and this app, because it's all audio and words, can rapidly cut to the point, because I could give you a sample of these other rooms on this app, and it's like a failed society. It's like fallen society, fallen culture. It's just individuals who are so toxic and so profane. But then sometimes they can be funny, but other times it's just like it's so gritty and deviant and sexual. And anyways, you know what Clown House is like. It's rated NC-17.
John, what I'm talking about is like I feel like there's just like this weird. I still haven't been able to articulate this, but so imagine there's. Okay. I'm gonna do an analogy to try to make this the best way that I could explain it. So there's Billy, and Billy is a bully, and he's a school bully. Okay, and then there's Steven, and he's just like a bystander. Okay, and then there's Chris, and Chris is who Billy is gonna bully. Okay, so Billy the bully walks to the sandbox, right, and he bullies Chris, pushes Chris, trips Chris, picks on Chris, takes Chris's stuff. Now you're witnessing that. The Tao is like, or Buddhist, however, there's a bunch of different ones. Just observe, just sit and observe. Like, what? You want me to just sit and observe this? Right? Billy's so much bigger than Chris. Chris is such a sweet kid. He doesn't bother anybody. Billy's such a bully. And I'm just supposed to sit and observe. I can't process that. And then the worst is like the non-interfering. You're supposed to sit, observe, don't interfere. And then if you interfere, you're somehow part of the problem. That's what I heard you communicate. If I don't have that right, I think that's part of what I'm not going to go so I'm not going to put my right in that 1 second. But if, Steven gets involved, now he's part of the problem, because isn't it the responsibility of observers when they see something that they can help and fix to step in, to course correct? I would be, now as Bima, if I see Steven watching Billy bully Chris, and Steven's just sitting there, eating his sandwich, sucking on air, and I know that Steven can have an effect, even if it's just to say, hey, leave him a note, or hey, what are you doing, or why are you doing that, or why do you think that's going to do anything, right? And I'm watching Steven, and Steven ain't doing nothing. I'm judging Steven. I'm judging Steven, like, Steven, what's wrong with you, right? Non-interference, that's crazy. Because if you were Chris, I would want somebody to interfere. I think we all do. If it was
but you've seen the experiments. You've seen the train videos where people get lit on fire, shot, knifed, and people just sit there.
Yeah, that's the weird bystander effect crap, though.
Yeah.
All right, when you got like a bunch of people. And that's something to think about too. Sure, yeah.
Well, that's the group think syndrome, where if somebody's getting murdered and there's 13 people watching it, everybody will say, oh, somebody else is going to call the police. Like there's that famous Brooklyn case. So I don't have faith in the human brain, because I don't think people are very smart. I think most people are just hypnotized all the time, and they're not actually capable of taking a response in an intelligent and leadership type way. Like, I'm a former U.S. Army officer who has been, through many types of military training lanes, and I've been critiqued, by hardened combat soldiers that say, you did an excellent job. You did one of the best jobs we've seen, because I can practice violence of action and bring the fight. in a leadership commanding way. But that's because I've been conditioned and trained to do that professionally. And not many people have that capacity to be aggressive for the sake of survival of, your tribe. And to me, that's lacking. And even a departing police officer I read today, he was saying that like the police have become so pussified that he's worried that there won't be enough power and strength to fight, the evil that is out there. And there's a lot of real evil out there. I mean, it's my opinion, but
I don't want, Kusam, I'm gonna let you get in real quick, but I don't want John to escape because I brought something up and I saw you did a wonderful tap dance around what I said, John, by not answering it. And I'm not gonna let you go. I'm gonna hold you very tightly because I love you. Okay, I'm still curious, right? We talk about this Taoism, this Wu Wei, observe, let things unfold naturally. Is Steven supposed to sit there and be at peace while Billy bullies Chris? That's what I have a problem with. And Husam, thank you for being so patient and letting me jump in there. And we'll give John a couple minutes to think. Please go ahead, Husam.
Well, we'll offer my thoughts. I think the reason that we can all, to one degree or another, say that the world is so, air quotes, bad is because the bad people are outworking the good people. If all the good people are sitting around passively and just allowing and just observing, well, shit, bad people are willing to do the work. Because the incentive is, if I can do a little bit of bad, I can get a whole lot of good, right? If I just go in here and I steal this thing, or I go into their house and I steal this, whatever, then the benefits certainly outweigh me doing the hard work to get that thing that I covet. It's worth it for them. So I think the idea that a good person, that this is, I don't mean to do a trigger alert here, but this is the problem that justifies how let's say a Hitler becomes Hitler, because all the good people sat around and was like, I'm just going to go with it. I'm just going to sit back and it's all good, and then eventually you realize, damn, I'm the frog that's being boiled, So I do think there is a problem with so much passivity. There's a book, I'll close with this. I hope he's had enough time to think. There's a book called Prometheus Rising. And in that book, it says that people find themselves in one of two situations, either shitting or getting shitted on, And so this idea that either I have to be the bully or I'm getting bullied, it eliminates the opportunity for the hero, the one who simply seeks justice and righteousness in the world. There's got to be room for that person to push against the bad, push against the evil, the bully, if you will. So that's what came up for me.
Yeah, I didn't mean to.
see, Bima,
Yeah.
there's an expression I like that says there's not a speck of dust out of place in the whole universe. We live in a very caste system. And the meaning caste is very true, meaning that like we are all casted into this, thing, this game that we call America, or, the world and the global communities. So I'm just saying, to know or to have a caste is a good thing because molds are expensive. So the sooner you start casting yourself, I know you like to say you're a former politician, but damn, you talk like a fucking politician. So I'm just saying, life is communication. I've branded myself as a politician. You can go to John Kitover on Instagram and view all my new AI videos. And I think they're brilliant and people are liking them. And it's amazing because I'm actually getting out my economic political philosophy of small government, small problems. It's just common sense. We've taken things too far here in America. and we have lost any sense of responsibility for we the people. But you got to admit, it's fucking amazing how huge it is. Because you can go from Seattle to New York to Miami to Austin to Dallas to Scottsdale. Like, we are a huge, fucking, incredible city state. But, you know, when you go to all these other small towns that, like, you never heard of, there's just so many fucking people here in this country. It's amazing. So the experiment of America has been a huge success. The economic growth, if you want to call it that, is truly remarkable. The amount of real estate, the amount of equity, the amount of you know, manufacturing and farming and everything else. Like, it's one huge fucking system that is pretty remarkable, because we don't necessarily have outflow. At 350 million, when you look at China and India, we're actually like an inflow type country, meaning that the world comes to us. And because of that World War II military victory and our Federal Reserve, we still have this position on the world stage. And I'm just saying that it's a global community, you know, and there's a lot of different castes out there. Which caste are you in?
I'm in the anti-religious cult, aka government caste, and that would be, what then would be that? That would be the individuals, the mavericks, the critical thinkers, the lovers of philosophy, the lovers of justice, true lovers, not virtue signaling. I have a couple minutes to set aside some time to get frustrated about a political issue that I really truly don't care enough about because I don't research it to the ends and beyond, right? I'm talking about the people that spend their time when an issue is presented. They don't appeal to law and appeal to authority. They understand that it is the mores of a culture and a society which create the laws. And we have to look at that. Is it right or wrong? What is right or wrong? How do you define good and evil? What is good? What is evil? What is justice? How do you define justice? All of these things, huge reifications, and people, they can't answer these questions, but they want to have these opinions on this or that. And the political left blames the political right, the political right blames the political left. And then there are people that just say, just obey the law because it's the law. And it's like, where have all I don't know, the philosophers have gone? Like, where are we? Can we not appeal to law and look at the core first principles of a situation? Like you just brought up, like, well, for example, let's say police. Now, I don't remember if you brought it up or it was something that I drew in my head because I talk to myself a lot. And it was something that I triggered, but police, like, do we think that policing, are they doing too much? Are they doing too little? No, it's the principles that are completely forgotten. And we are witnessing in real time the political right and the political left frustrated about non-compliance v. compliance v. crime, and we can't even figure out who the aggressor is. You couldn't tell me, right? Define crime, define criminal. Like, I need to know, is this like malum prohibitum or malum inse? Are you harming another peaceful person or their property? Or are you just violating some rule that a bunch of people decided to come together and write on a magic piece of paper and say that that's now a law, and now all of a sudden you're a criminal because the words on the piece of paper say that you're a criminal, okay? Every law that's passed, every written legislation creates a new crime, okay? So, I want to know, ultimately, what is really messed up? Like, what's wrong with the police? I can tell you if you want to know, but I won't get into it. I have a great theory on police, and I think one of the biggest issues. Oh, I'm starting to tell you. I said I wasn't going to tell you. I'll end there.
Come on, tell us. Come on, drop the shoe.
Well, if you insist. I think
I insist.
what we're witnessing in society is the left and the right arguing over what should or should not be a crime. And it's not the police. All they're doing is they're obeying. They are the agents of the state. It is their duty, their obligation, their oath to uphold all laws, even cruel or unjust or unusual. That's their duty. They're not the thinkers, they're just the doers. But we think some people are like, well, they're just enforcing the law. But then there are people like me that are like, no. You're not going to get away with anonymity when it still is you that is committing the act. You are the actor. They only get enforced by the enforcers. So we're arguing over the laws. We're frustrated at the police, and we take it out on them, which I also am going to say. I definitely, police, I don't think that there is a single, well, no, hold on, let me phrase this properly. I think there are many good people that become cops, but I do not think there is a single good cop. And I say that as not an attack on the individual, but on the attack on the institution, because of what it asks of the person that's taking the paycheck. They have to, by oath, by their job duty. That's what they're paid to do, and that's what everybody that's listening to this that support cops, it's what we support, right? If you're supporting your police department, you support the ability for them to go out to enforce the laws that say, okay, but this is the thing. When there are laws that we find are unjust,